Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It is December the 27th, 2024. And today I'm coming with you with an exposition on how Putin is escalating this war as we move into 2025. Yes, today I'm going to expose 4 key things that you need to look for and understand. Some of these things are some breaking news that are happening in Europe. They are happening in Ukraine, and I'm going to share them with you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for subscribing, commenting, liking, and sharing. And once again, thank you for our huge successful project of providing drones to the 54th. I will be in Ukraine with the 54th, and you will get to see your love in action. Thank you. Now, I want to summarize to begin 4 reasons why we are seeing Putin's pathway unfolding to escalation in this war. They are simply this: the NATO narrative, number 1, that's not changing. Number 2, the increase of technology. Of course, I'm referring here to Putin's, but Ukraine increasing technology multifold as well. It's unbelievable what is happening in this war. Third, international destabilization happening everywhere that we are looking. Hint, hint. We're seeing what's happening in Germany this morning as officially, well, we'll talk about it more in just a little bit, but you see where I'm going with this. And number 4, Ukraine making some statements today, specifically Siersky, in regard to some internal situations happening on the battlefield and internally there in Kyiv. You look at all of these things and you begin to see this pathway for escalation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know that Vladimir Putin was speaking himself yesterday after that economic council there in St. Petersburg, and he was just spewing garbage out of his mouth. Spewing absolute garbage. But in the garbage that is being spewed is a narrative. Sergei Lavrov, also the foreign minister, spewing the same garbage. But inside the garbage, there is a narrative. So the first reason we can say that the pathway for escalation is unfolding is this: Ukraine has put out their analysis on Putin's responses about NATO, about the Kellogg proposal, about other proposals. We saw the reaction to Orban and the Christmas truce with the missiles flying. Take him off the stage. He's irrelevant. But I want to share with you now the Ukrainian analysis. And here it is. In regard to number 1, NATO. Putin, in our opinion, has rejected the Trump team's initial peace plan proposal. Now, ladies and gentlemen, no official proposal, but we know the talking points of it. We know that Kellogg is coming to Ukraine in January. That is expected, and into Europe. We know that on Christmas Day, Kellogg also tweeted out about the horrible atrocities of raining missiles on a holy day down on a nation, even if you were at war with them. So we see the narrative. So we know that Putin came out yesterday, and Lavrov over the last couple of days, talking about postponing Ukraine's NATO membership for 10 years. Putin himself spoke about, I spoke with Joe Biden in 2021, and they would delay Ukraine's entry into NATO. And Putin said, listen, I don't care if Ukraine comes in tomorrow, 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter. We are not standing for a Ukraine that is in NATO. That is their official position. It's not changing. We want Ukraine to have no affiliation with NATO. We want Ukraine to maintain a limited army. We want to provide security guarantees. We want to have our lands of Lugansk and Donetsk, Zaporizhia and Kherson and Crimea. And the big one, spewed multiple times out of Putin's mouth and out of Lavrov's mouth: governmental change regarding Ukraine due to illegitimate president, referring directly to Zelensky, which is unsuitable for negotiation. So this is Putin's pathway for escalation. We have nobody to negotiate with. And it is publicly stated now for days and days. So when Zelensky says, or Yermak says, or Podolyak says, Ukraine must sit at the negotiating table, Russia's position is the only ones that can sit in the negotiating table with us are elected members of the Verkhovna Rada, because you, Zelensky, are an illegitimate president. Now, guys, that is 100% baloney. It is a lie. It is propaganda. It is trash, but it is the narrative that they are standing behind. At this moment, Ukraine's saying we see no positive movements from the Kremlin. Here we are, December the 27th, 2024, moving into the new year. Secondly, technology, specifically in regard to shaheeds and also the Oreshniks. We have seen over the last couple of days all of the talking about the Oreshniks. Maybe we'll shoot one today, maybe we'll shoot one tomorrow. We're putting them in mass production. They, of course, have more than one, guys. Ukraine's intelligence says they could have up to about 10 of them already, but Putin's saying we're putting them into mass production. Lukashenko said, well, we're going to put 10 in Belarus. Guys, it's just saber rattling, but the reality is they're talking about this Oreshnik. But equally important, and not talked about as much, is the Shaheed. Russia right now ramping up another production facility outside of Tatarstan to make Shaheeds 24/7. Of course, Ukraine has been attacking one of the Shaheed facilities there outside of the city of Kazan. Shaheed drones are now updated with AI, which allows for targeting of specific buildings, even with loss of contact. So guys, when we are sharing with you, when you're watching a YouTube guy and he's talking about, okay, 100 Shaheeds came, Ukraine shot down 70, two, flew into Belarus, and 28 lost contact, meaning that they were just flying around. Well, this is actually the Ukrainian warning. It says uvaga, and which means warning, caution, reminding communities about the Shaheeds. They can fly low. The air defense can take them out. They fly at 185 kilometers per hour, and they have a range of 2,500 kilometers. They can fly around for a long time, but the warning came out that now many of these Shaheeds are loaded with AI. So guys, when you're inside Ukraine and a Shaheed goes off to offline or it loses contact, it just starts to fly around. We have seen them many times. They're just flying around like they're lost, and they just putter around. They'll run out of fuel. They'll fall to the earth or whatever. And sometimes you just kind of ignore it if it's going out. Even the PPO will ignore it if it's going out into a direction that may be heading toward Belarus or back into Russia. Ignore it. Ukraine's saying now, be careful because they have upgraded these things. And even now with loss of contact, these Shaheed drones are using AI, artificial intelligence, and they have cameras in them. And when they see a building, for example, a factory that has smokestacks, the recognition of the artificial intelligence will cause the Shaheed to target onto that building, a thermal power plant, anything that can be programmed into it. And I know what you're saying. Well, okay, well, then they'll program them into them schools and hospitals. I get it. Exactly. But in reality, smokestacks are easy to target. So Ukraine coming out saying the technology is increasing. Be careful. Guys, this is another reason why we can look at this pathway of escalation. Technology is changing. And guys, technology is changing on both sides. Ukrainian technology in drone warfare is escalating exponentially in their ability. The electronic warfare. In fact, when I'm in Ukraine here, Zhenya and I will do some video and we will show you how the EW affects, for example, GPS systems and navigation. We'll show you because it's unbelievable to see. And this has increased in this war since day one, and it will continue to increase. Thirdly, we talked about international destabilization. Now, guys, I am not an expert on this. I'm not an expert on Germany, but I can do some common analysis, understanding the Putin narrative, understanding the Putin mindset, and understanding this war in Ukraine. Number one, German president dissolves Bundestag, new parliamentary election set for February 23rd, 2025. Now, not really a surprise. Schultz calling for, a vote of confidence, all of those things. I'm not getting into the politics of it. I just want to get into one big picture analysis of why Putin will use this as a pathway of escalation. The majority of deputies voted for a vote of no confidence in the Schultz government. The leading candidate for the post of German chancellor is Merz. Guys, Merz is pro-Ukraine and Merz is pro-Taurus, go after Russia. He has repeatedly stated that it is necessary to increase German military support for Ukraine, including the transfer of long-range Taurus missiles. Now, guys, at the same time, here is Schultz saying, Putin has been defeated in Ukraine on all fronts, says the German chancellor. And yes, I am ready to have another conversation with him. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I placed that picture of a smiling Vova Putler. Why? Because this is exactly what he wants. He wants governments to be destabilized. He wants to call for new elections. He wants lack of confidence. This is a huge, major partner of the war against Russia, a huge partner, massive amounts of support from Germany to Ukraine over the life of this war, which now approaches 3 years. And now the government being destabilized, the government being dissolved, and the one who will be running for election who said, hey, earlier I called Putin, it was such a waste of my time. He's just pep, 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 pep. Now he says, you know what? Putin's been defeated on all fronts. And yes, I'm ready to have another conversation with him. And Vladimir Putin is going, thank you. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Guys, when we talk about destabilization, we can also talk about what's happening on the border between Estonia and Russia, there in the city of Narva. We can talk about what is happening in the undersea cables there in the Baltic Sea that connects Estonia and Finland, ships being detained, all of these stories, and what is happening. This is what is happening. Putin's just back. Destabilization. Guys, this is the plan, and this is the long game of how the Kremlin, that Soviet mindset, that narrative that dates even back to the 50s with Khrushchev and on through time, guys, this is what they do. They destabilize, and then they try to escalate and take advantage. This is the real deal, guys. Fourth, and finally, I told you the fourth thing is internal happenings in the Ukrainian military. So I want to update you on some stories that I shared with you a few days ago. And this is directly from Syrskyi. On the right, and Syrskyi, the supreme commander of the Ukrainian armed forces. On the right is his tweet and his information. On the left, I've translated and summarized it for you. Syrskyi update. We are working to create conditions that preparation for participation in combat operations lasts a total of 2 months. I'll explain. We initially were at 30 days of basic training, and then it was expanded to 45, and now we are moving to a 60-day plan of basic training. Guys, this is huge news. This is good news. Many Ukrainian soldiers, I'm telling you from firsthand witness, even forget the 30 days. They were trained only for 2 weeks because the need of soldiers at the front was so vital and important. They only had time for 2 weeks of training, and they were shipped off to their positions. Now, Syrskyi himself, he's responsible for his statements that he has now made. We moved to 30-day training, moved to 45-day training, and now we're moving to 60-day training. That is fantastic. The better trained that we can get Ukrainian soldiers defending their homeland, and as we support them to do that, the better army they will be. But that brings into a question that is running around Ukraine right now. Is the mobilization age next? I'm not going to prophesy on it, not going to bet on it, not going to gamble, but you're going to hear much, much, much more about the mobilization age coming down. And I believe personally that this could be a precursor to that. Okay, we're going to lower the age, but we're increasing the training. I don't know. I'm not throwing it out there, but this makes logical sense for me. Syrskyi update also, there is now understanding in regard to deep state map conflict. It is resolved and we move forward together. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a huge battle over the last week. Deep state, you need to go away. We need to take deep state and put them into the army. That technology, you're giving away OPSEC. All of that was just internal conflicts happening inside of Ukraine. They are now resolved. This is good news. But the reality is, when you look at the pathway of escalation, Putin's loving this. Ukraine increasing their training. Putin will use it to his advantage, saying, hey, all they want to do is train more people and come at us harder. Well, of course, they're defending their homeland, but he will flip it. Oh, their internal mapping, their internal conflicts being resolved. They're strengthening. We're coming. And finally, guys, Syrskyi did update, and this is something you need to pay attention to. Our most critical places of battles are in the south, specifically referring to the Pokrovsk front. I like to take lives and look at the maps in depth, but on this, guys, on the right, you're seeing the Pokrovsk push, that southern front there. I have circled for you in the red the cities of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, and we know about the key highways. The blue line that I have drawn for you there, and this is using a deep state map, is very important because that is actually the administrative border between the Zaporizhia line and the Dnepropetrovsk line. The Donetsk line up above it coming into the Dnepropetrovsk line. All of these regions where they come together. Ladies and gentlemen, we know Russia wanting Lugansk, having about 99.7% of it right now. The battles for the Donetsk Oblast, and that refers, to the places of Kramatorsk and Druzhkivka, Konstantinivka, Chasiv Yar, Toretsk, all of those places. Then you wrap around the Zaporizhia line and you wrap around to the Kherson Oblast. But guys, now this is something you need to pay attention to, and we will see if Russia goes after that Dnepropetrovsk Oblast. The Dnepropetrovsk Oblast is where the cities of Pavlograd and the cities of Dnipro are. Ladies and gentlemen, if they cross or attempt to cross, and Russia's already talking about it, and Ukrainian intelligence talking about it, where they want to come push on that borderline, and Ukrainian defenses are being prepared for the Dnepropetrovsk region, and they're already prepared. I've seen them with my own eyes. But guys, this is what's happening, and this is what Vladimir Putin will use going forward into 2025, the pathway of escalation. We'll keep our eyes on this, and I will continue to keep you updated. Guys, this is where we're at today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. I really hope that you've had a wonderful holiday season and moving into the new year. I'm looking forward to getting into Ukraine, being your hands, eyes, feet on the ground there, and we will do our very best. Thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing. Thank you for all the works our mods do. Just thank you to everybody. You guys be blessed, and we'll be back soon.